Webcam microphone up close.
Webcam microphone up close.
At the age of 19 in 1962, she was a...
See, but I have the files. You know, I read this stuff at the National Archives, and I read these other things. I said to myself, how can that be possible? The brain, you know, pistols and frontal slab of choice. I don't know what that internet, professional wrestlers, and not just Ventura style. It doesn't matter where the cartoon comes from, as long as it's real. It doesn't. It's hard to get real information because seriously, they don't want you to just read these two sources. Whenever I try to prove out, you know, it's not. If you expect your government to tell you the truth, you're going to sadly disappoint another one of these things.
Dear Lord, what a dirty, dirty old man, huh?
Really? Can't be serious. Is this really want things to be? Come on. More hooker, eruptions, eruptions, whatever.
Like Dave Powers kind of...
Really?
Allegedly broadcast live from Pima Region 2, within the borders of the formerly united and currently occupied states of America. We bring you the Ochelli Effect.
I damn sure know I'm an original.
We have all these situations. I'd love to know why it takes 50 years, for
That's that.
for a 19-year-old girl to eventually get up to gumption to put these things out.
And happy Bloody Tuesday on UCY.TV radio. It is the Ochelli Effect. I'm Chuck Ochelli. Good evening to you. We are live, and as everybody that listens to my show regularly knows, Tuesday night is Liberty Beacon night, so I will be joined rather shortly by Mr. Roger Landry in the first hour, and then in the second hour, I assume I will have Terry Joyce with me once again. Roger has been on my show many times, and I'll tell you, every time he's on, I enjoy it. I hope everybody else does as well. Now, let's see what happens when we try and add him in. If everything cooperates. Oh boy, oh boy. Roger, are you with me? Hello, Roger.
Hello.
There you are. Okay. Wow, things are cooperating. How are you tonight, sir?
Let me see. I haven't had a chance to look lately. Yep, I'm still in one piece.
Awesome. Awesome. You know, so am I, by some strange miracle. But here we are, of course, Tuesday's Liberty Beacon night, and Roger is the founder of the Liberty Beacon. So, tonight, though, we're going to discuss something of interest. I know we've touched on this topic before, but I did get a chance to at least briefly go over a special you did on one of your We the People broadcasts, and briefly sort of glance over an article. With that being said, and I'm going to drop a link at some point here for everybody in the chat and all that good stuff, so everybody can catch up on the article themselves. But Roger, you want to explain what it was that you were doing on the We the People broadcast?
Okay, these are they're called We the People specials, and they're called specials because we do them when we have individuals who have a paramount word that needs to be gotten out. What I mean by paramount is this is something that is of such interest to the people that for us not to know it can and is causing severe harm to you, either through political tyranny or through health tyranny. Well, today we're going to discuss things that affect your body. And what I'd like to do is give the name of the article and read a little preface I made, because it does contain about an hour and 20-minute long discussion with Dr. David Lewis, who is a microbiologist. And let me go over the preface for the article, and then we can go into a discussion, because some of the things this gentleman put out will absolutely rip your heart out. It will get you angry beyond belief. And remember, this gentleman he has written many articles for peer-reviewed journals, and he has written books. and you cannot punch holes in what he says because he has documentation for every word of it. So let's start out with the name of the article, which is The Shocking Truth, EPA/CDC Whistleblower Story. So let me read the preface and this will set up our discussion, Chuck. What you don't know can and is hurting you. What follows is easily the most important discussion I have ever had for the Liberty Beacon Special Program. In this recorded discussion, if it doesn't scare the hell out of you and make you insanely angry for a very good reason, and fully awaken you to what many of us have long suspected, you need to check yourself for a pulse. Dr. David Lewis is an internationally recognized research microbiologist whose work in public health and environmental issues as a senior level research microbiologist in EPA's Office of Research and Development and a member of the graduate faculty of the University has been reported in numerous news articles and documentaries from Time Magazine and Reader's Digest all the way to the National Geographic. He is the only EPA scientist to publish first authored articles in Nature, Lancet, and Nature Medicine, all peer-reviewed articles. David Lewis worked with the EPA and CDC for 30 years plus. In this discussion, he explains in shocking detail why Americans have fallen from one of the healthiest to the sickest society on this planet in a few short generations. Our health and that of our children literally sold out from under us for the proverbial 30 pieces of silver. Listen as he describes the fall of these agencies from beneficial science to abject cronyism and corruption, knowingly putting the lives of millions of Americans in jeopardy. Listen as he describes policy morphing from good beneficial science to scientific data intentionally altered and falsified, only to the benefit of powerful corporations and government policies. Again, all proven factual. Listen as he explains how scientists are made to rat out their colleagues, told to wear a hidden mic for colleagues objecting to corrupt government policies, or they would lose their jobs. And this all resulted in a mass exodus of highly qualified and valuable researchers from government agencies. They didn't want to do it. They wouldn't do it. Listen in horror as he explains how this government is putting sludge 1,000,000 times more toxic. 1,000,000 times. This is a fact, not an exaggeration. Than any polluted water or any polluted air, and they're putting this sludge in our parks, on our children's school playgrounds, and selling it to you as to use in your organic garden, knowing full well the ultimate danger this presents to us. This is all documented fact, not a guess. Yes, vaccines known to be highly toxic and harmful. The research he and his colleagues painstakingly performed are being pushed on an infecting population. And a foray by Dr. Lewis into his in-depth involvement in the Dr. Andrew Wakefield defamation saga. This is not a joke, okay? All we suspect and rail against in the area of health tyranny is brought to light by a soldier who fought and continues to fight on the front lines of this battle against the ultimate health tyranny. We the people are being deceived and poisoned in a fashion that will tear the anger from your heart by the very government agencies and politicians we fund and elect to protect us from this evil. If you want blatant, unexaggerated truth, so be it. Here it is. But can you handle the truth? Because if you can, you can't afford to miss this.
Well,
That's the preface.
One thing really quickly here, Roger, just in case my listeners don't know, Dr. Andrew Wakefield has been excoriated, demonized even in various publications worldwide for his research. And that research showed that there was a link between all sorts of intestinal problems and autism and vaccines and autism. There was a lot of issues here, okay? But his
been
research...
vindicated lately.
He's been
totally vindicated.
Yep. Well, that's what I was getting to. I mean, if you want to tack on to that, sure. But I'm just saying that at first, what happened here is that Dr. Wakefield was very much excoriated, like I said, in the health profession community, in the research community, as a charlatan. That he had falsified his studies and everything else, that he had exaggerated various cause and effect factors that had to do with these things. But he noticed very, very early on a lot of commonality between, let's just say, the individuals that were suffering from all of these intestinal problems, which seemed to have a causal relationship to the autism and everything else. It's really a deep thing, but I'm telling you now, this is somebody who I have always said was quite attacked unfairly, and just to make sure, if you want to see what happens to somebody who tries to tell the truth when it comes to this health tyranny stuff, Andrew Wakefield's case is one of those studies that one can really observe a capsulized version of what happens when someone tries to tell the truth about harmful things like this. Now, if you want to talk about how he's been exonerated as of late, please do.
Well, one of and one of the prime movers of this exoneration was this hour and 20 minute, and I've got to explain to you, I have never, ever, and I have had some phenomenal guests, and we have discussed some bold tyranny. I have never had a discussion with anybody who is more in tune with the actual cronyism and corruption within this government. He lived it. He fought against it. He's written a book about it. This guy is on the ball. But he met Dr. Wakefield at a symposium at one point, went up and decided to strike up a conversation with him. And he blatantly asked him, okay, he said, Andrew, is any of this true? And Dr. Wakefield, but it's not. So David, and I do call him David because he's not a medical doctor. He has a PhD in microbiology. But anyway, he prefers to be called David. And David said to him, well, do you have all of the documents and the records that led up to this defamation? And Dr. Wakefield said, yes, I do. And he asked him if he could have access to them. Now, David lives in Georgia. He went California and spent an entire year combing through every document that was used both in the trials, the defense, the prosecution, everything that happened to Dr. Wakefield. And when he was done, the product of all of his research was that the government, in actuality, did not have a leg to stand on, and everything that they had put forward was false. Now, the gentleman who crucified Dr. Andrew Wakefield in the UK is a journalist. The same journalist caught on to the fact that Dr. Lewis was digging and disproving a lot of the trial testimony. Now, he also got a hold of Dr. Lewis, David, and blatantly threatened him that if he didn't back off and quit digging into the case, he would ruin him and defame him the same way he had defamed Dr. Wakefield. So now you've got to put two and two together. If he had a reason to defame Wakefield, that's one thing. But to defame somebody who is just using the statistics from a trial, the historical documentation from a trial, to disprove any of the claims made against Dr. Wakefield, if you're going to make the same threat against him, then basically what you're doing is you're covering your own butt, or you're covering the butt of the corporations that paid you to bring this to light in such a horrendous in the first place. So not only did he uncover the fact that everything that was stated about Dr. Wakefield was unproven and false, okay? Not only did he prove, due to the documentation that the government had, as well as Dr. Wakefield, that Dr. Wakefield's research stood on its merits. As a matter of fact, the college Dr. Wakefield worked for in 1998 cleared Dr. Wakefield, said none of the charges hold any merit, but the government still went ahead. So what we're seeing here is influenced.
All right, you just broke up there, Roger. But here's the thing: I just want to make a point very clear. This anecdotally is, just so my listeners understand, is exactly what happens when you do any sort of research that contradicts the official explanations in a lot of cases. And I'm going to tell you something without even looking. I guarantee you that this press person, this UK-based prostitute, if you will, I guarantee you that this guy has some sort of support, regarding, say, I don't know, randomly speaking, MI5, MI6, something like that. A lot of these guys have government ties, and what happens is...
And big pharma ties.
And there you go. And what happens is when you have the big government tie, of course, because corporatism has definitely spread like a virus throughout the planet, you also see the corporate interests, using these individuals, these assets, let's just call them, to exert pressure on anyone who basically doesn't toe the line, who doesn't go along with the official stories. Even in historical research circles, you'll find that people are defamed and everything else when they come up with things that do not go along with the program. Okay, and this is precisely what occurs in the medical field. In the area of, like, say, people that want to investigate, campaign finance, people that want to investigate other forms of corruption, regardless of what the particular venue is, as far as what the occupation is, really doesn't matter. Anything where someone attempts to really truly blow a whistle, there is always some sort of blowback from individuals like this, either in the prostitute community, in the political realm, or both. And in some cases, law enforcement, legal actions take place, as did with Andrew Wakefield. And this is what happens. This is what happens to people who are telling the truth. I just wanted to make that point really clear, and you were starting to break up a little bit there, Roger, so I'm sorry I interrupted, but I wanted to make that point because I know that's basically where you were going. But Wakefield, I'm telling you right now, is one of these guys who has been really unfairly demonized. I have no better word for it, but to be demonized by the community in which he came from, by the research community, and by the medical establishment. Because basically, if what Wakefield proved and what he did is accurate and correct, there is a whole lot of explaining to do in that community. Okay? And please go ahead, Roger. I just wanted to make that point real clear because, like I said, your Skype was breaking up a little bit, and I wanted to make sure that we got that out there. So go right ahead.
You always compliment my conversation. Please don't ever apologize for jumping in and making something explicitly clear. Let's take this a little bit further, okay? Because the entire conversation does not center on vaccines. The entire conversation centers on everything that the CDC, the USDA, the EPA, all of these sister agencies that he had dealings with while working for the EPA. Let's take a for instance, okay? In the early 70s, the Cuyahoga River, just outside of Cleveland, caught on fire because it was so polluted. This sparked the EPA to set down some rules and guidelines on things that could be dumped into our waterways, so on and so forth. What it did was it drove a lot of the EPA rules and regulations. Okay, let's take this to where I'm getting. What happened was you had a lot of these sewage treatment plants that now had the mission of scrubbing this water before it was dumped back into the rivers or the lakes or wherever. They had to basically take these toxins out of the water before it was returned to the water supply. Now, let's go back and take a little sidetrack here, and just bear with me for a couple of minutes. You'll see where I'm going with this, because I know you're going to have something to say, Chuck. Let's take this back just a little bit further, okay? Fluoride. Fluoride is the byproduct of a manufacturing process, the toxic byproduct of a manufacturing process, most often in the manufacture of aluminum or in the manufacture of fertilizers. Now, at the time, originally, okay, before they started to fluoridate our water, it would cost a company manufacturing fertilizers or aluminum $6,000 per metric ton to dispose of this toxic substance, this neurotoxin fluoride, in a legal fashion. So what did they do? They decided that if we convince people, if we put it in their water, it'll make their teeth better. Not only do we not have to pay $6,000 a metric ton to get rid of it, we can actually sell it as at a profit. So now let's move forward and check out the identical scenario. And again, the government is behind all of this, and I'm going to connect the dots with you right now. All right, so now what we have is all of this pollution. It's called sludge that is scrubbed from the water before it's returned back into the water supply. Now, this sludge contains, and again, this is all peer-reviewed science. Anybody that doubts it, I can prove it. Dr. Lewis can prove it. You can go to his website to prove it, but let me get through this quickly, okay? You take this sludge, which has lead, which has toxins, biotoxins, that occur in a density millions of times over what it would ever occur in water or in polluted air. And it's all in a sludge. So what do these companies who run these water or these sewage treatment plants, what do they do with this sludge? I'm about to tell you. And anybody who doubts this, I don't lie, and I don't exaggerate. The EPA has approved this sludge, and Dr. Lewis was one of the researchers who researched the toxins contained and concentrated in this sludge. It is put on golf courses. It is put on playgrounds, school playgrounds. It is sold as fertilizer to be put on your organic gardens. The EPA is very aware of its high level of toxicity. Very aware, because their own scientists did the research on it. But yet your children are playing on those playgrounds. You're playing on those golf courses. The medians on our highways. I could go on and on. If you think you're growing in an organic garden and you're buying this organic stuff at your local garden shop to put on your food, you're poisoning yourself. So what we have here, again, is corporations who would have had to have paid huge amounts of money to legally get rid of this concentrated sludge. They pull the toxins out of the water and the toxins out of the air and concentrate into a sludge. But not now. Now they can sell it to you for your organic garden. They can put it on your children's playground. This is fact. Have you ever heard of anything more evil? Your government knows this to be a fact. I had this conversation. Please listen to it. Please, Chuck, put that link up. Okay? This gentleman did the research. He is a PhD microbiologist. Mm-hmm. And he is blowing the whistle, and his book is a mind bender. So here we have the ultimate tyranny being perpetrated on the American people, wreaking havoc on our health, killing people, being responsible for kidney diseases, autism, rampant cancer rates, Alzheimer's, dementia. Everything that's in your vaccine is concentrated in much higher levels in this sludge. And it is all known by, sponsored by, and made legal by your friendly neighborhood government. All right, I'm done, Chuck.
Well, look, there's a whole lot to say. And you know, when he was talking about the research that he did, and I do advise people to listen to it, Michelle Mashuli has joined me, by the way, on the broadcast.
Hello, Michelle.
Hi, guys. How are you, Roger, Chuck?
I'm ranting. Can you tell?
You always rant.
Yes, I do.
That's why I enjoy speaking to you so much.
I love listening to Roger, I got to tell you. But just listening to that, if you can drop that link I sent you before into the chat room, Michelle, I'd appreciate it. Because I'm telling you now, I was listening to this interview, and he mentioned a whole lot of stuff here. I mean, Roger just explained.
Let me interrupt real quickly, and then I'll let you continue, please. It was recorded via 2 cell phones. The sound quality is not perfect. It's not going to keep you from understanding every word. And like Chuck was about to say, once you start to listen to the conversation, you'll totally forget a little bit of static in the background. I guarantee it.
Oh, absolutely. I was listening to it all the way up until I came on because I didn't have time to get it all, but believe me, I'm going to go back and go over that again because I'm telling you, I heard all sorts of keys. Now, look, he mentions in that interview Siva Geigy, okay?
Yes.
Now, if you want to take a look at an example of damage long before now, I'm not talking about current events, I'm talking about, in the 80s, okay?
Right, late 70s, early 80s, yeah.
You got it. If you want to take a look at damage, I lived in a state where Siva Geigy did a whole lot of damage and just paid fines. And I'm talking about cancer clusters, I'm talking about damage to infants, I'm talking about birth defects, I'm talking about the increase in childhood, in early childhood leukemia, because of the toxins they were dumping in the water supply in New Jersey. Okay? Just go ahead and put the words together, Siva Geigy and NJ, into a search engine, and you'll see it. All right? So this guy was talking about that stuff. He was talking about the sludge. We've heard about this sludge before, but this guy actually did the research. So he knows exactly the numbers we're talking about here, and the other thing, which is completely outrageous and sickening, is the idea that as soon as they found out that, it could be so easily provable that these things were toxic, harmful, murderous, really, to the population, what did they do? They decided to change the standards. Okay.
They not only decided to change the standards, but let's take it just a little bit further.
Oh no, right? there's plenty more, Roger. Go right ahead. But I'm just telling you your point. Me off the top of my head. This is what got me. I'm like, this is the stuff.
You're ranting.
Yes.
I love it.
This is what pisses me off, is because you know what? When we talk to people that are outside of the awake or awakened or aware population, whatever you want to call us, that actually listen to my show, that actually have these discussions, they look at us like we're out of our minds when we say that no, it is being endorsed by your government, it is being, heaped upon you by the corporations, endorsed by the government. The corporations pay the government to accept these things, and they hide it in everything. Your water, the stuff that you're trying to plant, your food, this is all toxic.
Well, I want to take this to another level of tyranny, because I, for one, do not believe that every scientist who works for the government is an evil SOB. But I want to talk about a mass exodus, which Dr. Lewis talks about and describes so aptly in our discussion and in his book. But there was a mass exodus. Part of the reason was because so many of the scientists did good, really good, fact-based research to find the answers to these issues, and watched as the government, when their information was published, blatantly falsified their data or manipulated their data. So some of them left because of that, but not all of them. They figured they could ride out the storm.
Well, the problem is that true science doesn't have a political affiliation, okay?
Well,
science is science. Here's the problem. When they get into the manipulation, then we have the affiliation with the corporation, we have the affiliation with the government, we have the affiliation with whoever's pocket is bigger, and that's the way it goes. But the thing is, when someone is honestly conducting scientific research, okay, they are not concerned with the outcome. The outcome is the outcome. The method is what they adhere to, okay? And this is what I heard from this man. is that he was about the method and therefore was actually being scientific about it. There is something called a scientific method, and it does work.
Okay. But what happened? What happened to precipitate the largest outflux of good researchers and scientists from the CDC, from the and vaccines he talks about a lot too, but it's further into the discussion. A lot of the mass exodus was precipitated by the fact that in order to clamp down on these scientists discussing what they were seeing, the manipulation of data, the falsification of data. What they did were they would take certain of their employees, administrative personnel and some of the scientists, bring them into the office and tell them if they wanted to keep their job, they needed to wear a wire. They needed to wear a hidden microphone so that they could tape, unbeknownst to the people they were talking to, others within the research communities, the 12 research centers the EPA has across the country, and take these people who were talking bad about what was going on, the manipulation of data, the falsification of data. Well, these scientists refused to do that. They were not going to incriminate their co-workers, especially when they knew their co-workers to be correct in their complaints. So what happened was they had a massive exodus, Google this, of researchers and scientists with PhDs from the CDC, from the EPA, from all across the government. And this happened in the late 90s, early 2000s. And the first exodus was in the first Clinton administration, which is 1993. So now what we have is a massive exodus, but you still need to have scientists and you still need to have researchers. So now we're going to hire new scientists and new researchers. And the first thing you ask them as they're coming through the door is, are you willing to work within the guidelines and the policies we establish without stepping outside of those guidelines? And if you do you understand it will mean the immediate termination of your job? So what we saw was a mass exodus of people who were concerned about your life, my life, the life of our children, the health of people in this country. And this all started about 20 years ago. And a huge influx of a bunch of whores who just wanted the paycheck. What have we seen in the last 20 years in this country? We have seen the biggest decline in the health of this nation in its entire history.
Yes, sir. And
nothing is more blatant than this show I did. My God, I can't rant hard enough about it. How am I doing, Michelle?
You're great. You know, what is ironic, but by ironic, I mean completely unironic, is the fact that this is when we've made the most advances in healthcare. There is no irony there because causation. Come on. We're supposed to be healing now, and this is when we've been the most sick ever. Well, by the way, I hate to interrupt. Chuck, I'm not able to get that link, but if you could have Kim Facebook it to me, I'd be happy to put it on the Facebook page and in chat as well.
All right. Well, we will get it out there before the end of the show, I assure you that. What kills me though is that I'm going to push back against one thing you said. You said that there were all whores that came in there. No, they're just people that.
No, I said a massive influx of whores. I didn't say all.
Oh no. But
I would never say all.
Oh no, not all. But I'm saying the influx of whores. Excuse me. I wouldn't say they're the influx of whores. They're just the influx of the people who want to participate in the snitch Stasi nation that we're now becoming. And this is what the problem is. I mean, look, you're going to inform on other people and keep everybody in check. Look, think about that strategy for a minute, people. I mean, this is, does someone who is doing honest scientific research need to have snitch patrol in their ranks? Is that necessary? Really? I had to say that because it's just one of those things.
I knew I could get you to rant today. I knew it. I said, boy, I'm going to throw this in his face, and I'm going to hear him rant today.
Because, and I was actually really tired before I went to air, but I'm telling you right now, forget it. Forget it. It's over. I am no longer tired.
I have never done a show. And I've had some phenomenal guests. Some really, really good guests who have a lot more notoriety than this gentleman does. But I have never done a show that puts more blatant evil right in front of your face to the point where it's literally itch-slapping you with a bee.
Oh, yeah. And I want to say that only the setup there, where we're explaining the qualifications and laying out the situation in that special you did there, that was the only part where I wasn't getting angry about every 60 or 80 seconds. Because that was it. It was like, okay, now I understand who I'm listening to. He's David Lewis. Okay, I've never actually, I think I recognize the name, but I've never actually checked him out. Okay. Oh, right. Scientific community. Okay, I understand. Okay, you work for the government agencies. Okay.
He's the only government scientist, and remember, he worked for the EPA, who has ever had studies published in these peer-reviewed journals.
Mm-hmm.
How his work is. He actually has published studies in these peer-reviewed journals across the planet. So this guy's work is impeccable.
Oh, yeah. But that is the impression I get. Look, I have dealt with a lot of scientific individuals. I am not a scientist, but you know what? When I wanted to understand bullet-lead analysis, I went to scientists. I went to statisticians. I wanted to understand how this was done, and they laid it out for me. And believe me, you can tell right away who you're dealing with and who you're not dealing with. Okay, and this gentleman, I cannot.
He's got one fault, and only because I didn't like this guy. Not as a person, because he's a very gentle-hearted person. But he sounds and looks like Jimmy Carter.
I just found the link, actually, and yeah.
And listen to him talk. If you close you don't have to close your eyes because it's not a video. It's an audio. But if you listen to him talk and you close your eyes and think, he sounds just like... But, of course, he comes from the same area of Georgia that Jimmy Carter did.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. The drawl is similar, yes.
Yep.
It's that very mild-mannered sounding drawl, which is not really obvious or anything like that. So you're right, he does.
Yeah.
Even his cadence is kind of like Carter's is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Very laid back. But I actually got him ranting a little bit later, and that's almost funny to listen to because you can tell this is a guy who doesn't like to project his anger. But he gets down probably within the last 20 minutes of the discussion, and he says, the one thing that really makes me angry, Roger, and I'm like, oh my God, I did it. I pushed his button.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, look, Roger, you're really good at that, by the way. I just want to say.
He knows he's good at it is the problem.
Don't. I'm going to tell you what, Toto, don't pull the curtain back too far, okay?
Okay. Oh, wow. We could, you know what? I'm going to leave the whole Wizard of Oz thing alone because we're up on for another hour, and I don't want to do that to you.
No. We'll do a whole show on that, though.
Oh, please, if you would, I would make special arrangements to do that with you anytime.
Oh, yeah.
We could.
We'll leave Dorothy and Toto and her friends and the New World Order out of this right now.
And even the flying monkeys, ladies.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
But let's turn this back around just a little bit, okay?
Because you know what? I do want to get into the part of the interview which I did not hear, which is about the vaccines and all that, because, that is a serious issue also, and didn't even get to that part. Like I said, I'm gonna have to when I'm done tonight sit down and take a very serious listen because there was a lot of information in there, and I want to hear it again.
But on my site, I can tell when other countries are coming into the Liberty Beacon site, and I can tell which articles are getting the most hits. I passed this article on to Christina England, who lives in the UK and is a very prolific writer and an author of several books on vaccines. I passed it off to some people in Canada. I passed it off to a friend in Australia. And when I look at the map in the back office on the site, there are hits coming from all over those countries, especially the UK because of the Dr. Wakefield portion of the interview. But as far as the vaccines go, I triggered him on that because he would have talked about the EPA work he had done. He would have talked about the concentrated sludge. He would have talked about the manipulation of data that the EPA had done. But I did know prior to that, because I had a personal conversation with him. You know, I like to do meet and greet calls with whoever I'm going to talk to before I do a show with them. Okay. So I had an hour-and-a-half long conversation with him a week before we did the show. So I knew that he had done a lot of work with the CDC. And I knew that I could boil his blood. So I asked him, I said, let me ask you a question. I said, what do you think about sister agencies who walk all over each other's standards? And he wasn't exactly sure where I was going with this, so I expounded. I said, okay, what you have is you have one sister agency who is stating that you have a standard, the EPA, on mercury that a human being is allowed to be exposed to at any given day before it's considered a toxic level.
Right. This is what we talked about during the discussion we had about the flu shots, right, and about the amount of mercury, which is then issued, thimerosal, which is then issued into the fetus if a pregnant woman takes a flu shot.
Right, but I wasn't going to go into that in depth. I was just basically setting up the discussion. Mm-hmm. So I said what you have is the EPA setting up a specific standard which is considered a toxic level. Then you have the CDC turning right around and telling a pregnant mother, oh, that's fine, don't worry about it. It's great for the health of you and your child, okay?
Here comes the best part.
Right, and then you have the EPA setting up a standard for, say, aluminum, and the CDC coming back and stating, well, don't worry about that, it's never going to harm you, please go ahead and have your infant child get 10 vaccinations in one day, all containing aluminum. And then you have, so I said, let me ask you a question here. I said, and you must have been drilled about this many times, David. Where does a population who is waking up to this tyranny more and more on a daily basis establish, maintain, or ever have a confidence factor in the very agencies who are funded by our tax dollars to protect us? And why is it that the CDC will say something and the EPA will say something else, and what you end up with is an ignorant public that is in danger of massive disease and mortality? Where is the common ground between these agencies? Do they ever talk to each other? And are they so complicit with the big corporations, with the corporatism in this country, that health has been literally thrown out the door as a concept or a mission of these agencies? And he absolutely, without hesitation, says, and you can hear him say this, okay? Roger, you're absolutely right.
Well, right, and this is...
This is a guy who spent his entire life doing research for these mechanisms.
That was what I was going to say, is this is the guy who was doing the research. This isn't a matter of, like, you and I sitting and looking from the outside in. This is a matter of, this is somebody who saw it for himself.
He produced the right answers, and they published the wrong answers.
Well, let's not forget, guys, that when it was approached that the levels of heavy metals, mercury, aluminum, were unsafe per their own standards, what did they do? They raised the standards. They didn't say, this is not healthy, we better fix this. Heck no. They just said, no, never mind, let's just change it. We're just kidding. It really is acceptable.
But I agree with you, Michelle. Until we get to, and I won't delve on this, I promise I won't stick on it too long, Chuck. That's fine until you get to the fetus level. When the mother getting the flu shot, the pregnant mother, that contains 25 micrograms of ethyl mercury and shares her blood with that fetus who the EPA says should have no more than 0.01 micrograms of mercury, that's a factor of 2,500 times. So now tell me, did they ever raise the level of acceptable mercury in the human physiology by 2,500 times? No, because we'd all be dead.
Remember, though, it's not real mercury. It's thimerosal. Thimerosal isn't mercury. At least that's what they say.
I can blow a hole right through that.
Because I know that.
Right.
I know
you and I both know, when you get a shot that has ethyl mercury in it, the ethyl mercury is metabolized by the body into methyl mercury, which is 10 times more dangerous. But it doesn't stop there, because the end result is the body remetabolizes the methyl mercury into inorganic mercury, which is next to ionizing radiation, which is the worst. Inorganic mercury is the most toxic substance to the human physiology on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
And you're supposed to take Tylenol. Don't forget the Tylenol. That decreases your glutathione, making there no blood barrier whatsoever. No blood-brain barrier whatsoever.
But it sells a lot of Tylenol.
They get a hell of a lot of Tylenol cells. But that's what they tell you. Not only do you inject this directly into your bloodstream, you're supposed to, for adults and for infants, give them Tylenol every 3 hours. Oh my God, that is the biggest mistake ever. If someone insists on doing that, I tell them, don't do that at least. Jeez.
Well,
Tylenol in itself is dangerous.
Right, you're supposed to take your Tylenol, drink your fluoride, and and breathe your aluminum, because all of these things are so healthy for you.
Oh my goodness! And let's not forget baby water. They market water exclusively for infants. It's called baby water. And you know what baby water has in it? Extra freaking fluoride. Extra fluoride.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And fluoride is a known neurotoxin.
Thanks. Look what you did, Roger.
I got you ranting.
That's not hard to do.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to be quiet because I know Chuck wants to say something, and we're kind of drowning him out here.
No, it's perfectly all right. This is exactly, you guys are saying what I want to say anyway. That's why I'm sitting back here. I mean, how many times do we have to say this? How many times do we have to explain this? And what is, like I said, what's most amazing to me is still there are people that don't understand that all of this is toxic.
Did you know, and he speaks to this, not only in his book, but he speaks to me in the actual conversation about this, okay? When his attorneys, went to the courts, which he's brought 12 lawsuits against the government and had heads of departments deposed because of what he submitted in court. When his attorneys, through his request, asked the government, is it okay to publish falsified or modified data? This was their answer. And you can hear him say this, so you don't have to take my word for it, okay? And this is what the government said. As long as the data equals what the government already has published, it doesn't matter. In other words, since the government is already putting out false data, if the new data they put out is also false, that is legal in the eyes of the government and the court system.
So
he actually said that, Chuck.
So as long as they've lied previously, it's perfectly all right to keep lying about the very same thing.
Gee, is that about right? You hit the nail right on the head.
Oh, okay.
This is exactly what this guy says, and he can prove it unequivocally. That is the standard the government has set. As long as what we put out runs in concert with what we have published in the past, it doesn't matter whether it's the truth or not. What do you think, Michelle? Is that evil or what?
Evil doesn't even begin. Evil doesn't even begin to describe it. And in talking about who mans these agencies, we're forgetting that it is the vaccine makers. It is the vaccine makers that are running the
and
CDC.
The biotech industry. Yes.
Exactly. Michael Taylor, Dr. Offit, both of them are heretics. Oh my God. How is it okay for the man that made a vaccine to mandate that it is necessary? That seems how is that objective?
I'm going to get Dr. Offit on one of my shows.
Oh God.
No. I don't know how long he'll stay before he hangs up.
Don't look at your little bit.
I'm going to get him on one of my shows, and I'm hoping he doesn't do any research on me before he comes on.
I think the best way to learn about your enemy is to go behind the enemy lines, and I actually took a vaccine course that he taught online, and I also read his book, and I don't think he believes his own crap. I think he's just saying it so people will feel a little bit better, a little warm and fuzzy, but just the way he vehemently speaks out against anyone that doesn't believe his method of care, it's very clear that he's trying to convince everyone because he knows he's up a creek.
Would you look at who his sponsors are? Would you look at who facilitates the programs he sets up? Would you look at who pays his salary and his bonuses? You don't have to go very far to find out where the end of the yellow brick road is. Here we go with a Wizard of Oz reference again. It doesn't take much studying on Paul Offit's dealings to find out where the yellow brick road ends.
But isn't that where they all end? Because after all, this is the reason why. This is, you get to see why. Okay, this stuff works this way. I don't. You know what it is? It's an overload in my head, though, because it just. I imagine. Okay, now let's just go into Chuck's imagination for a minute. Okay.
Uh-oh.
I imagine.
I got to tighten my seatbelt here.
Please do. I imagine that when these individuals who participate in these things willingly and falsify their data because it's been backed up by previously falsified data, we just covered that, okay. The thing is, I imagine that when these people are young and they want to go into the health-related scientific community and they want to study biology and things like this, I can imagine that not all of them have, serial killer souls. I imagine that, okay? But here's the thing. When you're
Turn to the dark side, Luke. Turn to the dark side.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, we could rule the galaxy together. I imagine they don't start out that way, though.
I never heard you stutter before, Chuck.
Well, you know what it is? I'm telling you, it's overwhelming to me to imagine that there are human beings who have no problem participating in the serial murder of others. I've got a problem with that. I mean, I can understand the psychology a little bit of a Jeffrey Dahmer. I can understand the psychology a little bit of a Ted Bundy. But somebody who does it and never even looks somebody in the face, I mean, I wonder if this is something that is just, a defect of their souls or what? I really
You're supposing they have a soul.
It's all money.
Oh, that's my mistake, yeah.
It's just money. It has nothing to do with us. There is no humanity behind it because it's a victimless crime. They never have to look at these individuals that are falling apart because of them. And they're just rich. They're rich.
But unless they live on an island all by themselves and never have families at all, they are looking into the faces of the people they're doing the damage to. Every day they step outside of their house and have to look at the walking wounded, for God's sake. I mean, how... I don't know. You know what it is? It's just...
They live outside of our reality. I truly and honestly believe that. Because I have talked to people who are involved within some of these mechanisms, both on the political and the health side. I have talked to them and I have asked them. And they have basically told me, look, I do my job, I get paid, I don't ask questions. And I ask them, I say, are you okay with that? Doesn't that do any damage to your soul whatsoever? And you know what their answer is? A vast majority of the time, I don't think about it. How do you turn your conscience off? Who the hell is so low on the rung, the ladder of humanity that they can turn their conscience off? I can't.
That's what I'm saying. I can't imagine a pile of money large enough for someone to tell me that what I'm going to participate in, or for me to realize that what I'm going to participate in is going to be detrimental to millions of people. I can't imagine that.
Well,
I don't know
take
why.
that one step further, because I agree with you, but let's take it one step further. If we consider, okay, all the full triad, all right, if we consider the medication, if we consider the GMOs, and we consider the geoengineering and all the metals, toxic metals that we breathe in every day, this is a global issue. It's not millions that are being affected. It's billions that are being affected.
Thank you for correcting me. You're right. You're absolutely
I wasn't
right.
intending to correct you, Mike.
No, but you know what? You did, and I'm glad you did. Because again, I can't even begin to, I can't think about participating in the murder of hundreds,
How about
thousands.
genocide? How about the reduction of the planet's population? Isn't that an Agenda 21 agenda?
But that's
Aren't
precisely.
these perfect mechanisms for accomplishing that over the next generation or two? These are long-time thinkers. These don't think in days or years or decades or generations. They think in centuries. A lot of these plans started up in the 1950s. We're talking about 60, 70 years later, and they have all the patience they need to take this through another generation or two, whereby the infertility rate on this planet will be so high and so many people will be sick and dying that we will see a catastrophic drop-off in the population of this planet. This is inevitable. It's not a guess. If you do the math at the rising increase and the accelerating increase in infertility and sickness on this planet, within the next 40 to 50 years, we will see a massive decrease in the planet's population. And this is exactly what they've said all along they wish to accomplish. There's too many of us cattle here.
Well, there's too many useless eaters. That's right.
Yep.
And, we can go down many a rabbit hole on that, but I mean, when the strategy is sound and the agenda is obvious, it's not much of a rabbit hole. It's really the sinkhole on the planet that we're all really on the precipice of.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Okay. If this was just greed, okay, just greed, and that's all involved here, okay, then wouldn't you believe, and the question's not quite over yet, so hang with me, wouldn't you believe that this might be an attack in one direction or another? But wouldn't you say that the obvious goal must be much higher than greed if the air you breathe, the food you eat, the medication you take, the water you drink, and the vaccines you receive are all pushing us in the same direction towards extinction or a massive reduction in population? Name one thing you need to do every day to stay alive that isn't attacking all of humanity at this point. Name one thing, I dare you, anything that isn't under attack right now.
No, there is absolutely nothing.
So it's not coincidence and it's not greed. It's intentional.
That's precisely. And this is, like I said, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It is an interlocking control grid, okay, yes, which is over every single aspect of your life, whether it be the psychological, the physical, it does not really matter, the spiritual. In fact, all of these things are being controlled, and you are being, and you're basically being soft-killed slowly. All of us. Every last one of us. And there is no escape, because there is no direction from which you can turn as a human creature that this is not coming from. So maybe this is the problem. I could maybe understand if it was greed, if it was just the pharmaceutical companies, if it was just the people that were
companies.
the biotech companies, if it was just the agricultural concerns, if it was
just the military-industrial complex.
Or just, there you go, another good point, if it was just the media, if it was just the print, the print control people, if it was just the electronic control people, if it was just, but it's not. It's really not. And I don't know, I don't know exactly what to do outside of trying to decouple myself from it as best I can, trying to encourage others to do the same, to remove ourselves from it as best we can, and to push back.
I honestly believe that the answer here is education, education, education. Awaken enough people that they cannot ignore us. There's 7.5 billion of us. There's a couple thousand of them. The odds are so overwhelming in our favor. And I know you want to bring Terry Joyce in, but I want to make a real quick announcement about Terry before you bring her in.
Sure.
And I'd like to say hello to her before you unplug me, which I know you're dying to do. But anyway.
Never, Roger, listen. If I could do every one of my 2-hour shows with you, 3 times a week, I would, sir.
Well,
okay.
this is an announcement about Terry Joyce. Terry Joyce has just been appointed by myself and Lucille Flamine, who is the executive director of the Liberty Beacon Project, as the new director of radio media for the Liberty Beacon Project, because we have 6 podcast shows now, 3 in development and another one under discussion. So we have 10 radio shows now, and we are going to have the absolutely fabulous and highly intelligent Terry Joyce coordinating all of this branch of our media going forward. She is our new director.
Does that mean I should contact Terry regarding the Liberty Beacon show that I do every Tuesday now?
I would, because Lucille is like me. She's so busy she doesn't remember which way is forward and which way is backward. But this is radio media, and that will fall under Terry's realm.
Okay.
Well,
and you are considered to be one of the great partner shows within this project, whether you know it or not, Chuck. And I'm sorry, Michelle, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, it's hard to get a word in with such great minds here.
Something.
No, I do, and
Were you going to tell them?
Well, would you like to tell them, or would you like me to tell them?
No, I would like you to tell them.
Okay. Well, I've been saying that I have a very exciting announcement on Facebook, and I've had a few messages asking what it is, and I am very, very excited to announce that I have been invited to be a part of the Liberty Beacon Project, and one of the new podcast radio shows will be mine. And
Absolutely.
I am very excited.
Chuck on, right? You're going to have Chuck on as a guest, right?
Oh, yeah. You better believe it. and y'all are still stuck with me. I'm sorry. Chuck can't get rid of me, so I'm still going to be here as well. So,
but Chuck is considered to be one of the best affiliates and partners for this project. So we would never do anything to even make you frown, Chuck.
Well, I appreciate that. And as I said, the first time that I brought Michelle on the air, I said someone will be smart enough to grab her up and give her her own show. So there you go. Obviously, one of the smartest guys I know is Roger Landry, and he associates himself with other smart people.
Where do I send the $20 for you, sir?
Man, $20, gosh.
All right, can I say hi to Terry before I go away?
You know, I'm just about trying to join her into the conversation here, and of course, I'm getting some resistance from Skype. So, if Terry's listening, you can call in. I can add you in without a problem. But for some reason, I can't seem to call her up on my list. Let's see. But either way, no, that's great. When is your show going to run, Michelle? And do you know what the the web address is for it and all that?
Not yet.
TPD or TP. Yeah. TBD. Yes. To be determined.
Okay. To be determined. But I'm sure if you go to the Liberty Beacon, all one word.com, you'll be able to find out where you can listen to Michelle's podcast as well as those episodes develop. And I'm really glad that Terry's going to be involved with coordinating the radio stuff, that's for sure.
One of the things that Terry has already done, and this is why I absolutely, Lucille and I had to pick her. First off, she's been involved with this type of media for many years. And second off, one of the first things she said is, with so many shows, what we need to do is start a page on Facebook where we can put the schedules and a list of all the guests, because so many of our listeners do come from Facebook. And also set up, because we have another Liberty Beacon website called The Town Crier, where we can set up a schedule and a chat room so people can discuss what they thought of the shows and suggest maybe future guests, so on and so forth. And all of these have been Terry's ideas. And it's just like, wow, I should have called this girl in 6 months ago.
Well, that would be great if you had like a, Liberty Beacon radio page on Facebook, because this way... That would be awesome, because I'm telling you right now, even though I really don't like Facebook very much, it's one of those necessary evils for getting the word out. And and I do love, by the way, just if you look for the Liberty Beacon on Facebook, there were always great articles. I repost a lot of it on the Ochelli Effect when I'm able to actually post to the page. But I post them to my own page. I post them everywhere I can, because there's great stuff from the Liberty Beacon, and also my particular, let's just say my favorite part of the Liberty Beacon stuff that's out there is the Falling Darkness, all one word, .com. That is an awesome page. It's got a little more of an attitude, and believe me,
that's a website. That's not a page. Yeah, but I agree with you. That is the edge. If the Liberty Beacon is the center of our project, the Liberty Beacon website, the Falling Darkness is the edge of our project.
Absolutely, and it's like I said, it's just one of those things that I have a greater affinity to, because it's just a little more angry, Roger.
I don't know. Don't I get angry enough for you?
Well, you do. But you know what the thing is, though, is that you're such I don't even know how to describe it, but you're just like this even kind of guy most of the time. Even when you get angry and you start to rant, I'm telling you, there's still a little bit of a control to you, because you're very aware of what you're saying. You're very aware that you're well backed by, you're not afraid that anything you're saying is going to be torn up or challenged, because you've already done your research. You can hear the confidence in what you're saying, and the obvious angst behind it. But there's a little bit of a pullback still, because you're not really screaming or anything. But I'm telling you now, some of the stuff at the Falling Darkness is a little more screaming.
you need to listen to, and I don't know if you ever have. I think you might have. I have a show called the Liberty Beacon Rant, and I literally holler for 90 minutes straight. I do. Michelle, if you've never heard it, you've got to listen, because I'm not joking. My anger it just pours out. And it is my best release mechanism for the entire week. After my Liberty Beacon rant, a 90-minute show on Saturday afternoon, I feel like all I want to do is kick back, have a cigarette, and take a nap.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? Those are available on YouTube also.
What, cigarettes and naps?
No. Oh, okay. But,
wrong.
No. The Liberty Beacon rants are available on YouTube.
On Awake Radio. Awake Radio's site. Yep.
Absolutely, and you can catch them on there, and there's that's where I was listening to them on. I haven't caught them all yet, Roger, but I got to tell you, I have re-listened to a few of them, because I wanted
There's 50-some of them.
Yeah, that's the thing. I knew there was over 50 already.
Joyce wants you to send her your number so she can call in. She just sent me a message.
Let me just try and add her one more time, because
she is on Skype. I can see her. She just sent me a message.
Yeah, I see that too, but let's see now. I'm going to get her in here one way or another, I'm telling you now.
Well, let me ask you a question. Could Michelle add her in? If I add her in and I go away, she might go away, but maybe Michelle could add her.
Let me try to add her in.
Oh, hold on. Let's see if...
Oh, she's in here.
Okay, I'm here.
There you are.
Oh, I told everybody about you, because I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait any longer. I told everybody that you were our new director of radio media.
Well, I was listening to the show a little bit because I like to listen, to what's being said before I go on. And I have to say, it's not all of the ideas are not totally mine. It's a combination of Roger's and mine because.
Oh, hush! I was trying to make you sound good, girl. Oh my God! Can you believe she did that?
Well, I'm not going to let me take all the credit. Yeah, I'm very excited to help coordinate the shows. I'm excited about the new media that we are a part of, and making it so that we can have the well-produced shows and get drive as much traffic as we can to them, and create our own branding and audience to us. I think that's a great idea. To Roger, and also.
Yes. I do. Yeah. I'm not going to say anything because I got nothing to say. You're absolutely spot on.
Yeah, I feel that we have some really great shows. I love the Ochelli Report. The Ochelli Effect, and as well as Michelle. You've a great radio personality, and your perspective and your own experience on what you are, living is information that a lot of people you can encourage and help a lot of people. We don't even know where the reach is because we are on the internet. It means that we're being broadcast globally, and if we can find that audience, and I don't even think of it in terms as an audience. It's people who are seeking information or people who are seeking the truth, and we live in a great. I find this to be, thank God we still have this ability on the internet, and while it's happening, let's maximize it as much as we can. So we make roots because we are the new media.
Oh, I love it. I love the way you say that. And obviously, Chuck, I had this conversation with Terry about, we really have to dump this term that the mainstream media stuck us with, the alternative media.
Oh, yes. No, I you know what? I have to catch myself all the time and call us the new media because alternative...
Or the true media.
Or true media, either way. But the thing is, alternative media means that we are the alternative to something, and to me, the mainstream, as it is so often called, is really nothing. So we are the alternative to nothing. That's not good.
I love it.
That's not good. So
Chuck, I'm going to go bye-bye because you have two lovely ladies here, and I'm sure you can fill up the next 48 minutes with some great banter and some really intelligent conversation. And I've had my shot in the sun here, and I very, very much appreciate it. And thank you so much for letting me bring this article in. Each week I try to bring an article that I've written because I only write what really...
You broke up there, Roger. You only write what now? Oh, we may have lost Roger. He's still showing us there.
It's kind of like he's in between from being gone.
Yeah, that's what's going on there. Well, okay.
Now he's doing they're trying to pull him back in again.
Okay. Well, either way, Roger, I really appreciate you being on. Believe me, it's my pleasure to have you on every Tuesday. And I say it again, if I could do every one of my 2-hour broadcasts with you, sir, I definitely would. Because everything that you have to say is extremely important. You're an extremely, salient individual when you speak. You're absolutely one of the most articulate and interesting speakers I have encountered while I've been doing this, and just in general as well, sir. So, either way, Roger, thank you very much. I don't know if you'll be able to rejoin the call to say goodbye, but if not, sir, it is always a pleasure. So, Terry.
Yes.
You're with me, right?
Yes, I am.
Michelle, you there too?
I'm here.
Okay, great. Well, sometimes the Skype connection with Roger will go a little funny, so that's the only thing there. But I will make sure, somebody make sure and let him know that I really appreciate him, and I do. Here's the thing, Terry. That's really great that you're going to be part of the radio communications, and that's what you're going to be directing now. I can't wait to see what you do as far as creating a separate page on Facebook for this, because I've been trying to pull people in and direct them to the Liberty Beacon, but I think if they're all sort of collected together and it's nice and easy for people to find, they'll be able to find your show, Michelle's new show. They'll be able to find me on Tuesdays and Roger's Rants. And I'm telling you, all this stuff is really great. I've been working with some other individuals on some other networks and everything, and they call themselves The Coalition. I'll send you some links to that stuff as well. And we're all sort of trying to work together because we all have a common interest, which is to get at the reality which has been hidden from us for so very, very long. And this is really the first step in fighting tyranny, is making people aware that it exists in the first place. So, on that note, though, Terry, what have you been up to?
Well, quite a bit, actually, and I'm really glad to be on the show today because there's a few things that I want to share that I've been experiencing personally. But back to, I just want to make one last comment on the phrase alternative media. It looks like now that the word alternative media is a little bit it's a bit under attack. That we're just people who are spouting conspiracy theories and, going into this patriot level and being associated with perhaps even an underbelly of a revolution that they would, that might be marked as these, crazy people, or the people that are giving, like we're giving information that's not necessarily true right now. So to even go to a different name and say, yes, no, we're the new media, we're the media that is, and I'm not saying all alternative media or is tried and true either. I mean, some of the media does fit the stereotype, and who knows if that media isn't even created on purpose to perpetuate the stereotype.
Well, so, let me first go after one thing you said there just real quick, because I want to make this point very clear. I cannot stand any longer the term conspiracy theory or conspiracy theorist, and I'm going to tell you why. Conspiracy is not, first of all, a derogatory word. Theory is meant to be derogatory, and here's the deal. When somebody like me points out conspiracies, I am not theorizing, okay? I am a conspiracy factualist, because there are many, 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 many out there, okay? And so I can't even stand that term, okay? And as far as the patriot movement goes, that's a whole other quagmire, which has been hijacked by some people and everything else. And of course, all of these things are rolled into one, just like you're talking about right now, where they try and, put all of us together and sort of, make us those people. And
yes.
That is the biggest problem here. And so I hate the term conspiracy theory. I hate the term conspiracy theorist. This is not what I have ever been about. When I talk about conspiracy, ladies and gentlemen, I am talking about facts. So if anything, I am a conspiracy factualist. Okay? So, but please continue, Terry.
Well, and for me, this feeds in a bit personally to me because, as I've said before on the Ochelli effect, that I believe was even the first show we talked about Bundy Ranch, what was going on at Bundy Ranch, Nevada. And I also mentioned that I had interviewed several of the people from there or who had participated in it, even from down to the day that they had the face-to-face off with the BLM. And I had done a show where I interviewed the militia, and it was Roger Payne from Operation Mutual Aid. And I had, and again, in these shows, I feel that there's nothing inappropriate, there's nothing aggressive about the interviews, and if anything, you're going to listen to a more, I don't even want to use the word spiritual, but people that have a certain care and consciousness going on, and really wanting to have peace and to maintain what they're there because they feel that there's an injustice happening, not because of the fact that there are these crazy people that are with guns who are upholding the Second Amendment that want to that are afraid that the NOO is going to take them over and they're going to go to FEMA camps, which is exactly what the mainstream media is labeling them to be, including Bill Maher, making a joke about them it was, I don't know if it was how long it was archived, but I saw it a few days later after the shooting took place at Walmart, which, a lot of people, again, I'm suspecting that it's a false flag, and I'm going to just flat out say it. I really feel that I'm very suspicious of the fact that there's a Batman theme going on with it, which we've definitely seen before. And it seems like, there are several shootings happening all at once. And then you have Hillary Clinton making statements like, the people that are, we need to have, saying that we need to, do something about the Second Amendment because it's only being cared about by a small minority who is putting the larger, minority in a unsafe. Basically that was how it sounded. Like we are threatening the lives of those that and the majority. And when I say we, I mean again, I'm not a gun person, but I am very concerned about the agenda of why the Second Amendment is going down. And I'm also curious as to all of a sudden why all of these crazy shootings all at once. Because I don't know about you, Charles, but I've been on the planet for a little while, and the generations that I've grown up, the decades that I've grown up with, I can definitely say there's been a crazy escalation happening all at once. And, because of that, I'm suspect.
Well, here's the thing. I understand the idea of being suspect because it does seem the way it is. It does seem to fit the agenda and all that. I get that. But here's something that I think a lot of people that believe that was a complete false flag kind of thing are not considering. And that is this. For the first time in mine or your lifetime, okay, people have been pushed to a point where these type of things are going to occur more often. Number one, they are. Because, look, you can only push and take away things from someone so long, lie to them and poison them in all sorts of ways, whether it be psychologically, whether it be physically, etc., whether it be with the SSRIs, everything. You can only do so much to someone before, and especially when you're talking about such a vast population of people that are being contaminated by all this stuff, you can only do so much before you're going to see some blowback, okay? That's one point that I think is being missed. Another point here that is just, again, this is me speaking. I'm not speaking on anybody else's behalf. But let's understand something, okay? Not only have people been pushed to this point, but this type of situation where one or two people were injured in gun violence, where one or two people were injured in other types of sort of public venues, whether it be in schools or it be in shopping malls or it be in parking lots or anywhere else, this kind of stuff used to happen a lot more often without the mainstream seizing upon it. Now, the way that they have seized upon it and the way that they have propagated it and the way they have promoted the idea that this was the purpose and everything else, this to me is most suspect. The fact that it is beginning to happen more often or the fact that it is beginning to be reported more often are actually a little bit of a different issue in my mind. But that's the way I see it. Now, it could be that I'm wrong and I misunderstand what I saw before. But I literally know for a fact that there were plenty of occasions of violence that were in areas that were not of major public concern, that were not in areas where the mainstream media, as it is and as it was, had any sort of particular agenda about covering or caring about. And the general population was unaware of a lot of this stuff. I mean, I grew up in some rougher areas and saw this stuff firsthand, not being reported by even the most local of newspapers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. In my mind, it's probably a combination of all of the above.
Yeah, well, when I say, false flags, I'm not saying that, these things didn't exist and the whole thing is all made up, et cetera, et cetera. But what I am saying is there's a possibility that, it does, there are certain things like the shooters have been on psychotropic drugs, going all the way back to the Columbine shooting. There's a pattern of video game playing that takes place. And, there is, a thing called MK Ultra, mind control, which, again, I feel that some of these are Manchurian candidates. And also it's obvious that there is more than one gun present that gets reported in these types of newscasts. And they also have witnesses that claim in some of the newscasts that there's been more than one shooter. And I just recently noticed this in a shooting, the one that happened here in Portland, Oregon, where several people said, at least 3 people during the time that I watched the newscast, said kids that were there in the shooting, so that they saw more than one person shooting. Or that more than one person was even taken down. And the newscaster would say, oh, well, that's not an official report yet, but we are taking note of it. But the official report is there's one shooter and he's been, blah, 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 and blank. And so, it's just the pattern of more of one of these kinds of incidents that, for me, makes their story of what actually really happened suspect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? You don't even have to look at the current stuff and say that people are reporting things too quickly because of the speed of information. If you go back to the Kennedy assassination, you'll find that there were at least 3 different rifles reported that had done the shooting, that there were individuals that were seen in different places. You go back to RFK's assassination, there were minimally, in my opinion, 3 guns present in that pantry. You go back to the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan, there is a gun. If you get the original news footage, you can actually see the Secret Service sweeping away another weapon, which was not even in Hinckley's hands, ladies and gentlemen. So, you know what? That has been common throughout. And ever since the 1950s, which, coincidentally would be about the time that the artichoke stuff turned into the MK Ultra and the MK Delta, which, by the way, if you want to do a search on MK Ultra, don't just do that. Try and add the word Delta to it as well. And you'll see the operational end of that particular program. Plus, you can also find out, and this is not just conspiracy theory, again, congressional hearings in the 1970s will show you that these programs existed, despite the fact that Alan Dulles attempted to destroy most of the records. He forgot to destroy all of the financial records. So, there is actual proof, even in the government's hands, that these programs existed, by the way. So, sorry about that, but I just wanted to digress really quickly because it's not a new phenomenon. This is something that has been occurring for at least in my opinion, the past 75 years. But, post-World War II, we can see the birth of the MK Ultra project. Michelle, do you have anything you want to add to this?
No, actually, you elaborated on MK Ultra, which is what I was going to touch on. So, no, you kind of took the words out of my mouth.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, enjoy it. It's rare.
But, Terry, go right ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to point those things out.
What's happened to what's happened to me personally is I did interview the militia, and I asked the question. I said, do you feel that you've been infiltrated? Like, how are you vetting people? Because what if there's somebody that joins you that has an agenda to disrupt what you're doing and go crazy and make it look like this is how you guys are crazy, and he shared with me that process, etc. Well, what's happened to me recently is I had posted these videos of the interviews that I did on Revolution Radio. And now, on Friday, I had interviewed Michelle on Revolution Radio. I had a meme that I put out about cannabis and autism and marijuana therapy because that was, somewhat of the theme that I wanted to touch upon on the show, and also, let an audience know that this is kind of like, how I'm, the framework of why you want to listen to the show, right? Mm-hmm. And I put it in some of these cannabis oil groups, and one of the admins removed it and said it wasn't appropriate. And again, this story is not where I'm going with. I'm just giving a little bit of background on it. I questioned why it wasn't appropriate, and then I got a lot of negativity, and I got what I perceived to be internet trolls. And in my opening monologue, I talked about, the fact that perhaps these trolls are existed in these groups, and that these groups are not, and maybe even these groups are being monitored, because why wouldn't you? It's about cannabis against the major corporations, et cetera, in our healthcare system. So then my Facebook page got shut down for an hour, and I couldn't access the site to nothing. Other people were saying, "Hey, I can see your pictures and your about, but I can't see none of your postings." And then finally, I got let back on again. On Sunday, I went to, or maybe it was Monday. It was Sunday night. I went in to log into my account, and I got a notice from Facebook saying that there was a report about some material that I had posted that was inappropriate. And that, whether it would have been like instilling violence or just a litany of reasons, sexual content, blah 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 blah. That and because of that, they've removed the postings, and they also have and this apparently it's a warning. I needed to acknowledge it, but they could also disable my account if they found a certain thing to be that inappropriate. So I acknowledged it. I tripped out on it because here's the deal. I went through everything, and guess what they removed? It was the Bundy Ranch stuff, and. The Bundy Ranch stuff, the stuff that I put out online was not offensive. It actually was like the giving them like the sanity that does exist there, and yet it's not okay to post the other side of something on Facebook. There was nothing aggressive. I'm not an aggressive person like that. I'm not a violent person. I do not wish for a bloody revolution or anything to happen to where any single human being is harmed in any such way. I am simply a person that is wanting to uphold the brightness and the good part of ourselves as humanity. And I felt that when I was posting that, I felt that was important to show. And Facebook took it off.
Have you ever, let me just ask you something really quick here. Have you ever heard the name Cass Sunstein before?
No. Okay,
I advise that you look that up and take a look at the concept of infiltrating the so-called conspiracy theory community, the liberty community, and exactly what that member of the Obama administration had in mind before they were selected to become an information czar in the Obama administration. Because I'm telling you right now, that there are individuals who infiltrate any group that you attempt to start or participate in for the express purposes of undermining what it is you are out to get out to the public. Okay, they do it through a couple of different methods, but one of the things stated in the Sunstein writings, if you take a look, there's a white paper by Cass Sunstein. Okay, take a look at it, and you'll see that they talk about exactly this type of behavior, discouraging people from spreading information which is not part of the official line, which is not part of the government's official stories regarding a lot of things. And believe me, if you take it and you read it and understand that these are the types of individuals who are involved with vetting the information that comes from our government to us, you'll really get a whole new perspective on the concept. And I think you'll understand much better why it is that these trolls and everything else come up, and why it is that the larger sort of parts of the blogosphere that are social media oriented are very, very stringently controlled for these purposes. Okay? They talked about the internet and the coming of the social media revolution and all these types of things. If you sort of put it in its proper perspective, you'll find that this is something that occurs all the time. And those guys at Bundy and other places who had infiltrators, the term agent provocateur comes to mind. And usually they are people that end up in places where individuals are being somewhat subversive to the establishment, and they're often put there to disrupt discredit and otherwise undermine the legitimate activities of individuals who want to, speak out against the overall sort of story arc that's being fed to us by the officials. So keep that in mind, and I'm telling you, take a look into it. You'll start to get a new idea about some of the strange people that approach you and why they do it. And, I know Michelle's had some experiences like that as well on Facebook and some other social media with stuff like this too. And believe me, so have I. And it's really, it becomes discouraging. But here's the good thing, Terry, and I want you to keep this in mind. If they're starting to bother you, if they're actually trying to cause you problems, then you're doing something good.
Yeah, that did cross my mind for a moment. I went, "Whoa! I must have really, yeah." I had a friend of mine who he has a show on Revolution Radio, Stephen D. Kelly, and he actually introduced me to the Bundy Ranch folks because he was interviewing them, and I said, I'm so jealous, and he goes, oh, come on the show, I'll introduce you, and so I let him know. I said, hey, like this happened. He goes, damn. And I talked to him and he goes, well, welcome to the club. It's like, hey, we've all taken a hit a little bit, but the fact that we can be stopped is jarring to me, and then again, emotionally, and again, and I'm working on dealing, because I don't want to say like I am an emotional person, on some levels, and it's exhausting it feels exhausting to be stifled that way. Especially when, I feel like I have a passion and a need to have a freedom of expression and speech, and to assess what I do feel is really happening with us right now. If I'm wrong, fine. I'm willing and open to listen to an opposition or another part of an opinion, but from what I can perceive, and again, I worked in show business, so I know how it works. It's like a bullshitter knows a bullshitter, and so when you see how they manipulate the words and the phrases, and politicians start making their little comments about things, and then they make a right, left, liberal argument about it. Well, the right, it's the Republicans that want the guns, and the liberals will say no, take them down. There's this, and they perpetuate these two opposite voices in an overall cultural manipulation. And then when Facebook shut me down, I try to reply, what is offensive in this? Or I wanted to have a dialogue. Did you see the video? I could not defend myself on any level in any way to contact them. So they basically have the rights to turn the lights off on you if they choose to.
Well,
which is a very scary place to be at this point.
I understand, but the only way that you're going to catch flack is if you're over the target, first of all. Second of all, Bill Hicks said it best about the two puppets, and sitting there and looking at them and saying, well, I think the puppet on the right, and I think the puppet on the left. Hey, they're being controlled by one guy. Shut up. Yeah. I love Bill Hicks for exactly that, I'll tell you. And I mean, there was a whole lot of brilliant stuff he did, but man, that one stands out with me, I'll tell you. It is exactly that. They're both being controlled by the same puppet master, as it were. So, but keep in mind, you do not catch flack unless you are approaching or over the target. So, that is a sign of success. And yes, welcome to the club, Terry.
It's been, but and again, I have shifted perspective on it. I'm not, when it first happened, I was just, just panicked, and I'm going to do a show about it too. A friend of mine, Patricia Eichen, who was, that she is my contact person, and also has been doing her own reporting and involvement with Bundy Ranch. We did some energy code work, and it was really, really powerful, and so it really relaxed me that night, and I went to bed and had a good night's sleep, and I woke up the next day and reviewed it with some of my friends that I know that would understand what I was talking about, because again, there are a lot of people that I feel are manipulated by what's going on, so they're going to have their fear bases and either punish me for backing someone that was a racist, et cetera, because that's what they were told by the media or by the negative internet, stuff. And they're simply not willing to listen to another side of the story. And then there's, my friends that I know that actually really get it and know what's going on and know that, that yes, we are being discriminated on social media. Yes, there is they're doing whatever they can to stop another viewpoint being held within anybody other than the one that's being imposed on us. And it's the fact that it's being imposed makes me question that there's an agenda. If we could all be speaking fair and level on the table, and I could see that the mainstream media was reporting another side of the story, then I would maybe say, hey, yeah, all right, but they don't. That this is what's happening, and therefore I have to say what I say and stand on the side that I'm standing until I'm given other evidence that there's something different going on.
All right. And just for everybody listening, by the way, I don't remember if I introduced you well when you came in, but we are listening to Terry Joyce, who has the Freedom of Joyce blog, also radio shows on which networks again?
I am on the Time for Hemp network, which is founded by Casper Leach, and that is at time4hemp.com. I have that show airs 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. On it is Tuesday mornings and Thursday mornings, and then on Fridays from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern time, I am on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And so, and then I re-air on Awake Radio US, which is where a lot of our Liberty Beacon, we are at Liberty Beacon. And I'm also on These Changing Times, which is another radio network affiliated with the Liberty Beacon, and our hosts are on. So that's where I'm at right now. I haven't been very funny really on this show at all, and I feel like what happens to me is sometimes when things initially affect me, I just go and then afterwards I go, okay, how is this funny? And because I have to get rid of the initial. Whatever. So I'm still new on everything, but pretty soon I'm going to have some jokes. One thing I want to do comment about Bundy Ranch is there's that video where he pulls out a taser gun from his chest and throws it at the BLM. And
that's where his son, I think, actually got. They launched the taser pins at him, and somebody yanks it out of him, or he yanks it out of himself, and they tried it a couple of times. That piece of video.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just feel like that's just so. Incredible Hulk, it's just like I would love to have seen like the BLM's faces when it actually happens. I don't know. I think that's a real cowboy when you can pull your taser out of your chest. You are the cowboy of the 21st century. It's like.
Well, it takes a real man to not go down when you're being tased. That's for sure.
Right.
Man, oh man.
Or drugs.
Yeah. It's like save a life, ride a cowboy, Save a horse.
Save a horse, ride a cowboy. Yeah, that's. What was the which show did Michelle do with you?
We just did the show on Friday. This last Friday on Revolution Radio. She was the guest on the show. And it was really, really well received. As a matter of fact, I hadn't seen so much talk on any of my shows in the chat line. The subject matter of autism and her personal search and helping her son it really touched a lot of people in who listened. And I just got tons of compliments on the interview. From beginning to end, it was a really, really good show, actually.
Well, thank you so much. And for those who didn't get a chance to listen, I am very honored to have the chance to speak with a very, very lovely woman who just happened to be Terry's mother. Terry's mom joined us on the show, and it was great.
Yeah, my mom called in. Part of the theme of the show was I wanted to one of the things about it, I said that this is a show about having the courage to speak your truth despite the opposition. And my mom does water aerobics at where the pool that she goes to, or gym, and there are senior citizens. I mean, my mom's in her early 70s, so she's still a young senior, and women of her age group, in the pool talking politics and what their take on what's going on in the world. And my mom happened to mention about marijuana. Marijuana came up, and she said, "Well, my daughter is a marijuana advocate, and there's reports that it's really helping people with cancer." And she goes through all the things that you would know. And one lady just lashed out on her, just like, "No, this is a gateway drug," and she gave her all the whole like reefer madness, kind of stuff. My mom got a big old whole taste of that while she was in the pool, and and her attitude was like, "Well, I wasn't going to go on anymore because there's no point talking to that person anymore because they're just not going to see it your way," which is words of wisdom, because that is true. When you have those personal confrontations, I think that we all know that there's a statement that someone will say that they're like, "I'm not going to go there," because you just know down that path is just going to be a lot of pain and misery. And really, my feeling is that we don't have to to convince everyone what information about something. I mean, at one point, people got persecuted because they said the world was round, and guess what? They were right. I mean, even Gandhi says even if no one gets it, then you do. It's a party of one. I'm paraphrasing him. I shouldn't paraphrase Gandhi, but the truth is the point. And to stand in the courage of that, how are we going to even make any type of what you would want to say positive paradigm shift on the planet, or collectively, or to understand what something really is, unless we actually really have the courage to take that kind of flack from people? And right. Really, in some ways, for me, that's almost like my biggest personal challenge. In some ways, is to not carry that on, not to look like, what, you're just an idiot, okay? And I've had it with people like you, and then just that's not the right stance to take. Although it's not to say that sometimes I have not, really wanted to just, verbally rip into somebody. And at what point does that really make in the end?
Well, you're quite right. I'll tell you on a different note, though. I've never been a guest on your show.
Well, we'll have to make that happen. I've got, I definitely have a lot of, dates available. I've got one guest booked for this Saturday, but next month I'm completely open. So as soon as you can, let's make that happen.
Well, okay, you're gonna have to probably pick a topic that I know something about. I know there's not too many of them, but
Well, I mean, we could just even do a personal, you and your show, and what you talk about, and stuff like that. And then I'm sure I am not worried about us not having something to talk about at all.
We can figure something out, that's for sure. And, we're down to just under, I'd say, 13 minutes left. Michelle dropped from the call. I'm not sure what happened there, but, I'm having loads of fun with Skype. Of course, it's working a lot better this week than it was last, though, I got to tell you. But, I just want to let everybody know that, this is the normal Tuesday night Liberty Beacon thing. And, of course, Terry's been on many times, but I enjoy having her on. I, of course, enjoy having Roger on. I forgot to mention that we're on UCY.TV radio. This is the Ochelli Effect, before I forget and run out of time like I usually do. And we are still talking to comedian and activist, radio talk show host, and now director of radio for the Liberty Beacon. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, I am the director of radio for the Liberty Beacon, and that is something that just happened as of last Friday. So we're in the beginning stages of organizing this and putting it all together, and our projected goal is to have our Facebook pages and all that stuff up and running in the next couple of weeks. so that we can, be organized and facilitate that. And I also feel that, I know some tricks of the trade, about, for example, if you're going to use radio during your show or your broadcast, you have to be careful. Even if it's an entertainer that, that's not famous or anything like that, maybe they have their own independent label. But if they're registered with iTunes or they have any type of copywriting, know that whenever you upload your material to YouTube or to iTunes or to any other platform, that you could be flagged, even and certain people will not be allowed to hear your broadcast based on that.
Yeah, there's a big problem with that because there's a huge difference between copyright and publishing rights. And here's the problem. Sometimes a corporation has actual control of a personage, meaning their image, their likeness, their voice, and everything else. And that means that you can get flagged for a copyright concern. And that wasn't a new phenomenon either. This used to be that a lot of entertainers, and myself included when I was a musician, actually incorporated as myself in order to control my publishing and everything else. Still lost a bunch to a record label. I'll tell you about that someday. But but the thing is that the individuals, like I said, their image, your name, and everything else are actually all sorts of concerns that cause problems like this. And now with this hyperinflated deal with Google controlling YouTube and all that, it's going to get even worse. So I hope people are aware of that as well. You're very right to bring that up. Michelle, you came back in.
Hi, Michelle.
Yes, I dropped out again. I'm sorry.
Well, as long as one of us is still here, we don't have dead air.
No, we haven't encountered that, so that's good. To rewind a little bit, it was great to be on Terry's show. It was so smooth and it was lovely, and Lori, her co-host, was on there, and she was wonderful too. And I had a really good response as well. I had several messages, and people add me on Facebook, and people were genuinely interested in more information and just connecting. And I think it's very encouraging to know that there are other people that are looking for the same things that you are, and that they're not accepting the status quo. So.
Exactly. Common cause, educate one another. This is what we have to do because we can't accept the things that come from on high. Appeals to authority are not to be trusted. So you should always research for yourself. You should always look into things for yourself. You should always find a way to comprehend the world around you for yourself, because at the end of the day, it is your perception that is going to matter to you and yours. So, with all that being said, really quickly, before I run out of time, because we're down to the last 10 minutes here, coming up after my show will be the Continual Condition, and of course after that is the Canary Chronicles. Well, let me give you the times. The Continual Condition is 8 to 9. The Canary Chronicles is 9 to 10. Primer Time, the Gun Guys, is on 10 to 11. These are all Eastern times, by the way. And then 11 to 12, it's Prepper Chicks After Dark. And that's all on UCY.TV radio. And I just wanted to make sure I got that in, because I know me, I'm going to forget. And I'm just going to run out of time, and my obnoxious bumper is going to kick in, and it will all be over. So, in the last 10 minutes, is there anything that we didn't cover, ladies, that we should?
Actually, if I can throw something out there real quick, I'll be co-hosting on another network tonight on The Truth Train with Lee the Mouth Pier. It's going to be at 9 Eastern Standard Time, 8 Central. There'll be 2 hours, and we're going to be discussing Common Core. And they let me say dirty words over there, so it should be fun. So, do you know Lee Pier? If you don't, you need to.
No, but we say dirty words on Freedom of Joyce Time for Hemp, because I have an explicit language. So it's kind of, I do a looser format, and I do hip hop artists, but they're still all into freedom and topics, and of course rap oftentimes has that theme going on. So and play songs with explicit lyrics in it. I like it. I'm sorry. It's freedom, right?
Yeah, I like it too. I hate to admit it.
You know what the thing is, though, and I just want to make this clear. UCY doesn't actually have a restriction on this. I personally keep a restriction on it because what happens is that when I go further downstream, it gets out to a lot more people if we keep our language in check most of the time, to be honest with you.
This is true.
And that's the only reason why I'm doing that. I mean, honestly, when I'm off the air, you know.
Well, I would much rather have someone learn and be educated and find out something new, and rather than drop a couple F-bombs. I can do that anyways, anywhere else, so.
Well, you know,
I feel that both are important, because there's some people that, you know, you're going to lose the information, and there's some people that they only get the information that way.
That's true.
You know, there is that other demographic that's the way they speak, that's what they want to listen to, and, you know, that's where their head's at. And so you can talk to them too, and also cover topics or artists or things that they would be into. It's all connected into you know. It's just like choosing to work different processes. You know, going up and being squeaky clean in the middle of a bar on a bar night when all the comics in front of you have like already just talked about the most rank things you could possibly think of that are absolutely hysterical. You better have a couple of those in your bag. Even just to like grab the energy and the attention into going into the direction that you want to go in.
Oh yeah, and I'll tell you what, you absolutely do not want to have to follow somebody who's already lit the place up. Even as a musician, that is a big problem. Is if you're the headline act and the opening guys have already done some crazy stuff, and you come on and you seem tame, you're going to lose your audience. So,
yeah.
You know, you got to be ready with, you got to have a few different tools in the bag, let's just say. Like you were saying there, you better have a couple of them in your back pocket ready to go, because there is no way that you can let the people on before you outdo you. That's the key. Mm-hmm.
Either that or you got to let people know if they're going to book you and you are totally a certain way, that you make sure that they don't book somebody in front of you that's going to set them off into that tone that you're not going to be able to recover from. Which, you know, really, you don't really have that option until you get to a certain level to request that. And even then, there's mistakes that are made.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, even at, there was a couple of festivals I remember, there was a film, and I can't recall it right now, and I normally could. I think it was one of the festivals in California where Jimi Hendrix winds up going on before The Who. And, this was one of those times when Hendrix lit his guitar on fire, did the whole thing, and trust me, man, slammed out Voodoo Child like you would not believe. And, you know, Keith Moon and all the guys from The Who were like pretty much insisting that Hendrix had to go on first because he was not as big a name as they were. They were completely upset with themselves after Hendrix did that. There was no way that, you know, those guys wrecking a drum set and knocking down some amps were going to be able to top the ritualistic thing that Hendrix just did. So, you know, this is one of those things that is tried and true in show business. Do not allow your opening act to outdo you. Yes. I'm sorry. I just thought of that, though, and I can't remember which festival. Monterey Pop. There it is. At the Monterey Pop Festival, that happened. Thank you. I just thought of that. But, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, mine was off topic.
Oh,
go ahead.
okay.
Go ahead, Terry.
Oh, I mean, I don't even know anymore. I was just going to kind of like make a comment on, you know, just the thread of that. Yeah, I've witnessed it several times when, you know, the feature act, you know, kicks somebody's butt. I mean, I've kicked somebody's butt before, you know, but you know, all of that to me as an artist is respectful, you know, because. You know, I mean, you got a good act in front of you. You know, sometimes it's nice to have somebody make you work really hard, and you can appreciate, like, hey, you're gonna go. You know, I mean, that's kind of the process of people moving up into that headliner position or having that headliner position. You know, it happens. It just does.
Yeah, I mean, when I opened for a metal band once called Nuclear Assault, and we totally ripped up the stage like for 45 minutes. And they came on, and people started leaving. I will never forget that, and I was very, very proud of myself.
I know, there is a part of me that goes, oh my God, yeah, I must be moving up. It's kind of a sign to yourself that you know that you're going to step into the next shoes because you're getting to that level. And it does. I know it sounds bad, like, oh, I shouldn't want to but it does put a smile on your face.
Yeah, when you spend a lot of time to craft something like a stage presence or a particular presentation or whatever else, when it absolutely blows everything else away. Every once in a while, I'm not a very prideful person, but every once in a while, I do have that little urge,
Yeah.
But anyway,
I think it's part of our nature in some ways,
We're
The ego. Woo!
Absolutely. We are just about out of time. I'm down to, I think, a minute here. And I want to thank everybody for listening. And I did forget to give out the phone number, of course. And we did have open phone lines. I'm sorry about that. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. It was definitely a different kind of presentation tonight. I know we've had Terry on and Roger on a few times. And, of course, Michelle's been on a lot. But here we are. I think this was pretty cool, and I want to thank you, Terry, for joining me once again, and I know we'll be doing this again. And Michelle, as always, thanks for being on here with me and making me just a little more likable, possibly. Everybody, have a good night.
Webcam microphone up close. Webcam microphone up close.
At the age of 19 in 1962, she was
See, but I have the files. I read this stuff at the National Archives, and I read these other things. I said to myself, how can that be possible? The brain, crystals and fondle slab of choice. I don't know when that was. The internet, professional wrestlers, and not just Ventura style. It doesn't matter where the information comes from, as long as it's real. It's hard to get real information because seriously.